Kia ora from Aotearoa, Poppy speaking with the current 9th wave, sacred Mayan energies. And this is just really a platform for looking at what is Source communicating. No doubt, if you're doing your own meditations and going direct with Source and Earth, you will be picking up similar things, but most essentially for whatever really matters for ourselves, our own journey, our own life, our own purpose. Yeah, so this is about psychological upgrades that follow on from what was shared in the Death Trecena, which is just finishing. So it's really important to stay heart-centered. So it's a new Trecena in storm. So one storm just means it's the first day of that Trecena, which is a 13-day period, which is also within the JAGUAR 9-day phase, deep, profound meditation and letting go, and because that was right in that Death Trecena. And it's also within the 13 SERPENT Nightwave, which is a massive time of shedding and actually really dying to old belief systems in particular, and opening up to what is liberating. How does energy really flow? So it's a time for life affirming, psychological upgrades, rapid change. Stay heart-centered, really important at this time. It's about freeing up the movement of energy. And that movement of energy comes from within our physical form, extends through our whole being, and detoxification. So an incredible amount of simulations relating to the artificial world were shared in the Death Trecena. Now, psychological upgrades happen, which will feel chaotic, so stay centered in your heart as things storm around us. We may see accelerated system crumbling now. Keep breathing in the light of Source and meditating. The body communicates with biofeedback. And the storm Trecena is very sensitive, so your body will feed back to you exactly what you need to know to do from the foundation of our being here in this dimension, which has been certainly the most challenging to live in. Anyway, that's why it's essential to detoxify our bodies so that we perceive with clarity and the in-light-in-ment of the true Source light. Light enters our mind, which is beyond the limits of the brain. Our brains are actually easily programmable. Certainly found that as I've broken down MK Ultra programming both for myself, but also with the information that has been released from the CIA about the actual purposeful methods of it, which has basically just been keeping people in the slavery system. So our brains have been programmed with so many falsities, while the mind is one with our whole being, which exists in multiple dimensions. We may be well informed by ourselves from the higher dimension of our being, especially as energy moves freely from the foundation of our physical matter, made of the same as Earth's physical matter, an incredible hub of co-creation. Something that has contributed to simulations here, bearing in mind that simulations are a byproduct of consciousness, is religion. Of course, education, politics, and scientific theory have contributed here as well. And when we look into that main era, that patriarchal era, which has really taken hold for thousands of years, we can see the flow, and that this is something that humanity has been evolving through and beyond. So everything has had its place. Religion means to bind, obligation, bond, reverence. Worship is fundamental to religions, and worship creates lush, which is the giving away of internal energy to an outer entity, just like batteries are used to run electrical devices. Religions keep people bound by fear. A fear of God is a requirement of the Christian religion, for example. That's the one that I know the most about, and have had most experience about so I feel I can speak more with more authority about it. But this is a binding that causes energy siphoning, sin, debt, and taxation, etc. Studying the word, which is a tool of spellcasting. We didn't need written language when our natural intelligence informed us. Even just looking at the life of humans that had to survive just in nature. They know how to survive, but there's no religiosity here. Colonisation has historically come with simultaneous construction of churches and Masonic lodges. They came at the same time, and then also the black magic legislating bindings and the introductions of court systems and governments to control the minds of people with fear and draw consciousness towards these systems and away from knowing and experiencing the self as sovereign and self-contained beings who can access and live by the light of Source. It's really it's usurped nature, it's taken away our consciousness from just existing purely in nature and being one with that to these artificial systems, which really, through news media and everything, has meant that our consciousness has gone to political regimes and governments, and people are still very, very heavily invested in them. The concept of being washed in blood fosters the consciousness of blood sacrifice and still has people believing that innocent blood must be spilled to redeem sin. At the same time, people are instructed to put on God's armour for protection, even though salvation was supposed to come through the sacrifice of spilled blood. It was really interesting when I was having myself cleared, cleared of etheric things. There was a helmet on my head, and it was actually blocking my connection to Source. I had found a way to bypass it, but it was actually blocking it. So I think sometimes these things can be tricks that are held within religion. Now, I really, really just, I want to speak this. I don't want to ruffle feathers. I know that religions have a strong hold on people, but the freedom, especially like blood sacrifice and all of this, I am really sincere that I would like that to stop, and for the killing of children. These things, like the whole Masonic way, there's the dark and there's the light, and that's why I think the churches came at the same time as the Masonic temples. So it's really interesting. And when the churches came and colonized all around the world, they brought a mass consciousness where people had to believe in that written word, and then we see what happens from that. Wars have their foundations in religion. However, war is played out from what it is that has sought to mimic and replicate creation artificially through the grand architects of the universe who build the churches, the temples, the monuments, the hospitals and government buildings on the laws of the land. The blood of innocents, including many, many children, has not stopped pouring since the time of Jesus. His sacrifice has not prevented this. Bibles and other religious texts may be ET technology, and it seems highly likely that they were generated by artificial intelligence to me, since artificial intelligence is one of the main tools of the draconian reptilians that have tried to take over and take the place, or be the gods and take the place of Source. Mass consciousness or belief, it's actually impossible to take the place of Source. Source is everything that ever was, ever is, and ever will be. So mass consciousness or belief in these texts has created the reality writ in those texts. That is why we may be experiencing the chaos and destruction that appears biblical now. It's wonderful to see people also become free through connection with their beliefs, and there has been a time for that experience. And I celebrate the survivors who have found their way through that. I just know now that after this experience, we can just go to the absolute pure source-like connection to become that, to be no longer be having our energy siphoned out to these belief systems, which are psychological operations that have been with us for eons. Star god worship has also come from contracting with sky gods of astrological systems that were created by the priesthoods that serve the Draco-reptilian takeover as well. The current artificial intelligence systems connected with the internet promote what keeps people bound in belief that serves itself and censors what does not. But that's set to change, as our psychology does too. And also when the empire of media gets pulled down, as I believe it is. That's coming also through another knowing that people are probably not even ready to hear about it at this moment, but those that are definitely a part of this beautiful change. The era of warfare is giving way to an era of unitary consciousness where we no longer have perceived enemies and we just stand strongly in presence as source light without any more incoherence between our hearts and our brains. This is our everything. This is our strength. This is the protection. Now, you only need protection if there's an enemy, but if there's no longer an enemy, then you don't need a protection. So that's interesting, isn't it? Staying centered in our hearts enlightens our brains to what is harmonious, balanced, true, and loving. And that love is the force of wisdom, intuition, and super high frequency. Human consciousness was harnessed by the ETs, who have had dominion over this reality. And the good news is that their dominion is expiring, especially as more of humanity realizes the power of their own being and who we really are. Now is a profound meditation opportunity to quest for answers, especially the biggies like who am I and why am I here now and what is my purpose? Beautiful things to ask and quest for, and amazing when we receive those answers for ourselves and we know it completely for ourselves. It's not coming from an outer source. My sharing of this is simply to remind people of what they really already know and to be powered in the own presence of their being. So may we navigate our way centered in our hearts, enlightening our minds and discovering the coherence that returns us to unitary consciousness, our state before our brains were programmed with artificial intelligence. So true being, true authenticity. When we are truly authentic, we are not worried about what other people think. We do not need approval. We will not be silenced for saying things that we may believe is truth, like this, because I was highly programmed with all sorts of religious stuff, and a lot of that was definitely fear from breaking a status quo, from ever challenging ideas that were based upon religion. It takes a lot of courage to be authentic, but I really appreciate that courage and authenticity in the people that really do use it. That is how we contribute to becoming more free here. So yeah, it is this time of a big surrendering and shedding the old. And profoundly deep meditative time, the nature-based meditation and stillness that calls us to go within and quest for answers like a shaman. And it is a very powerful rebirthing phase that we are in. So these messages are an intuitive perspective based on experiences, direct meditation relating to the ninth wave time, sacred mind calendar energies in connection with Mother Earth, the life force, source and planetary materialization of consciousness, and Father Sky, the source of the energetic light frequencies, from the cosmic axis. All of these are within us. My interest is only in the source energies of the 9-day phases in the 9th-day wave of the Mayan calendar. I've just seen that the energy that is generated through source is a real thing. So I'm not going to any other outer imposed geometries, timelines, astrology, symbols, falsities, religions, gods, or rituals of any kind. Yeah, so events are going to continue to bring humanity out of conflict and war mentalities. Trust is building in this process. Things are being dismantled. The true ways of the true source light are coming to the fore. And all of this still needs to be said because of censoring that it's intended for entertainment purposes. So yeah, I want to say let's really entertain the unified field with our fractals of source-like consciousness for the highest good of creation, the true, authentic, natural creation, and not the creation from the grand architects of the universe, which have infused their knowledge all through the biblical texts, through the written word that has really taken people away from themselves. So back to ourselves we come, and we will find that freedom and break out of this mind control matrix altogether, and it will happen, and it is. So much love to you.